The way people speak to their distributor reps as buyers is absolutely unacceptable. Like, I understand Southern is a pain. I understand, but like the fact that they think that these sales reps have anything to do with it and verbally and emotionally abuse them is so unacceptable.
What's up, y'all? I'm Jason from Who's My Rep, and today we have Sara Copeland. Sara has a ton of experience as a supplier rep. Sara, thank you for coming on and tell us what's your story.
I started as a bartender and bottle service waitress, mostly in nightclubs, hotels. Moved into small supplier side about 8 years ago, did a couple small supplier roles. And now I'm what's called a channel manager, which I manage a distributor territory with about 8 reps and an area manager, and then 3 direct reports who are portfolio managers underneath me at a big 3 portfolio.
So do you work for the supplier or do you work for the distributor?
I work directly for the supplier, not agency supplier, but my role within the supplier is to manage a distributor territory.
Okay.
And
what is it? What is your territory?
All right, so this is interesting. Due to union rules in New York State, territories are not as geographical as ones would hope they would be. This is due to the fact that New York is a union state, and as the structural changes happen within the distributor, each of the union reps has to still make a certain amount of commission dollars. So, which, can be a little bit problematic when you have people covering hundreds of miles of territory. So I've previously covered a territory that included Nassau and Suffolk County, Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan. I'm currently covering a territory that's much more heavily Manhattan, Brooklyn, the Bronx, and a little bit of Westchester. And I think there's some things in there too.
Okay, so I mean, part of the purpose of this whole thing is to kind of unveil some of the complexities of your job, and then kind of understand the buyer's job. Like, what's like, why is this so complex? Why is it so complex?
Okay.
Why is this difficult to explain, like, where you work?
A lot of it is tied to the union, and it's ensuring these people who, to be a distributor rep, there isn't necessarily a much, upward mobility, but there's a lot of security. And the security is ensuring no matter how many new portfolios come into the large distributor or portfolios leave and, reorgs there are, they continue to be, as they call it, whole. So financially secure. So I know, for example, let's use a great rep that so many cocktail bartenders in New York use. Everybody knows, great guy, had every cocktail bar. So when moved over from, when Bacardi came over to Southern, they created the Transatlantic division, which was Bacardi, Patron, and Heaven Hill. When moved over to that division, his account run changed, but he had to still, due to the union, he had to still make the same amount of money he would have in his previous account run. So it's not necessarily geographical then, it's based on the revenues of the accounts.
Before we were talking about, you were talking about how people kind of switch from being on the buyer side to getting to the rep side. What are some misconceptions that you wish they would understand before they made that jump?
An ambassador is nobody's boss. Like, an ambassador isn't making strategy. An ambassador isn't making marketing decisions. Like, they're not leadership. An ambassador is, a speaker, an educator, an actor, and a performer. But they are not the person deciding strategy. If you want to be a person deciding strategy and going into marketing, your best bet is honestly to get an MBA. Like, a lot of portfolios, big portfolios require an MBA to go into the marketing side. Sometimes you can backdoor your way in. You can do it. A great way to do it is if you are interested in becoming an ambassador. That's not the step to being a brand manager. A brand manager is not an ambassador. A brand manager is usually someone with an MBA. A brand ambassador who gets an MBA is a great, that's gold, because then you have both of those experiences.
But you've been in the game long enough to know the whole Simon Ford model, where the age of the celebrity ambassador, where they had like seemingly limitless funds.
Anymore. Yeah, like, and I think people are still like kind of looking to that, and like he's a great, he became an entrepreneur, and that's a totally different situation. But that trajectory is very different. The idea of the celebrity ambassador, I mean, sure, like, there's global but ambassadors, but there's still they're not the ones in the office deciding the strategy. They're not creating the campaigns. Like, they might have input on it, but that's coming from a brand manager who usually has an MBA.
And also, just knowing a couple global brand ambassadors, it's not the most glamorous job in the world. It's definitely not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Especially not if you have a family.
Yeah, it's really difficult to have a family. And you still have a boss. You're not your own boss. You have lots of bosses, in fact. And I think that is a misconception, is that this is a person who, a lone wolf and gets to be and like, you actually have a lot of stakeholders who you're answering to.
Mm-hmm. All right, so the brand ambassadors is a marketing function. Now let's talk about the sales function for a second. Have you ever had anybody act disrespectfully?
Absolutely. I think
what did they hope to gain out of this, and what was the situation set up for me?
I don't know. Prove they're smarter than me. Get something that, like, beat the rules, beat the system. Like, for example, allocations are a big issue. They're usually per the state liquor authority. New York State is a very particular monster when it comes to this, and so it changes state by state. But in New York State, for certain allocations, it is based on a rolling 12-month buying history of a connected product that's unallocated. That is non-negotiable. I don't do that. I have no control over that. The SLA controls that. I've had buyers yell at me about their Michelin stars and yell at me about their Pete Wells reviews, and that doesn't really change anything.
Right.
Like, cool. Like, I mean, I'm a bit of a smart mouth. So I said to one of them, like, congratulations, you have a Michelin star. I have a pretty face. Neither of those things are relevant to this particular conversation, but here we are. Good for us.
You were like the perfect guest, by the way.
I'm a jerk. Yeah. So I just think and I understand the frustration, like, or another one, why can't you be my rep? Or if I'm like, you're not in my territory. Why? Because the union. Because, like, I'm sorry, this is where I'm assigned. I will introduce you to your rep. Why are you my rep? Why isn't this person who's my friend my rep? Because they're in a different territory. Because why? The structure, the union. Like, this is all. Do you think we decide these things?
Right.
Like, I mean, and like, I think the focus on relationships is great. And I think people, I understand trust. I understand, like, wanting to work with that person you've trusted for a really long time. But at the end of the day, like, if everyone's a team, if you're like, hey, this is how I worked with this person, can you, do a reasonable pass off? There's kind of no reason to throw a little fit about it.
Yeah, I remember when I was a buyer at this bar a long time ago, and we did some horse trading to try to get shorts, actually. I think we got him, and then we ended up not being a very good account volume wise. Now I feel bad for that.
And I get it, but also, or like refusing, like, and so Southern has now there's 5 divisions at Southern, which everybody hates. I get it. Everybody hates it, but it is what it is. And they'll be like, I don't have an Emerald Division rep. Yes, you do. You always have an Emerald Division rep. You always have a Sapphire rep. You just maybe haven't spoken to them. And that's fine. You can continue to not speak to them, but you do have a person, and knowing who that person is and knowing where you land in this structure is helpful. So rather than being, I don't have one, meh, I only want to talk to this person, maybe just be like, find out who it is, get a little information, and make everybody's life a little bit easier.
Well, thank you for also mentioning the utility of who's my rep. You cannot just go on the Facebook group and say, who's my rep for this?
I think that's why initially when I didn't put myself on there, because I don't want, someone contacting me who's not in my territory and having to start this whole conversation again, because I don't want them, but why can't you be my rep? Why would you, like, when it's tied to these distributor territories, which I can't speak to other states, but I know other portfolios. This is how it works at Heaven Hill. This is how it works at Pernod. You know, this in the New York market. So it's a little more, there's a little more nuance.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is kind of a completely, I mean, aside from the fact that they most likely have the same or similar distributor, it's kind of geared more towards like the independent brands who are like entrepreneur-owned brands and basically own their own markets.
Which are great,
so they don't have, they're not Teamsters. They don't have the same restrictions. They can do it basically whatever they want as long as they have distribution. But I think it's really valuable for the buyers. I mean, I want to switch to calling them partners because that's basically what they are. You guys are basically setting up joint ventures with them to find the audience that you want, because you know that your bar owners they may be purchasing the product from you at whatever the price posted cost is, whatever, but ultimately it's the customers that they are going to be serving that are going to be consuming the product, and that's who you are both need to ultimately impress. And so if you have a big company, then you're doing a lot of out-of-home advertising, you're doing a lot of digital marketing, blah 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 blah. But the retailer, the wholesaler, is the throughput, is the through line to the end consumer. So it's a very valuable relationship, and I think that it's worth cultivating. So let's see here. What else was I going to ask you? So that story of like verbal and emotional abuse is really surprising and awful, especially from people that operate at a high level. And I hope that that's not endemic of the business. But in your experience, is that just
I feel like it doesn't usually come down on supplier reps. People feel very, and I've seen it, I think it is endemic. The way people talk to their distributor reps is horrifying to me. And I totally understand the frustration with these large distributors. Absolutely. I understand the frustration with the culture. I understand the frustration of having your orders screwed up. But this is still a professional environment. The way these people are spoken to is absolutely horrifying to me. And it's generally not suppliers. It's generally people on the distributor side that get spoken to in such a manner.
Tell me about the experience of what kind of experience are you looking for? What kind of creativity are you looking for in your direct reports?
In my direct reports?
Yeah.
So I actually have found that this is, maybe it's just a personal bias. Bottle service waitresses have a really great skill set. They know how to ask for the sale, and they're amazing at relationship management and follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
I think spirits knowledge can be taught. It's not the most important thing to me. I think it's, if someone is an intelligent person, they can learn spirits knowledge fairly quickly. But those are things like knowing how to ask for the sale and, really follow up in relationship management that is really drilled into bottle service culture. I know a lot of women who've come from bottle service who've really gone up the ranks at several big portfolios. So that is sort of an outside, like, for me, I'm like, oh, that's an interesting one. I look for that. I look for creative problem solving. I look for, I'm sorry. No, I'm rejecting this phone call. I look for a variety of experiences. I personally always say I want a chameleon. I want someone who can be in any situation. I always and you put them in a high-end cocktail bar, they know how to function. You put them in a sports bar, they know how to function. You put them in a nightclub, they know how to function. They understand the needs, they understand the consumer, they understand the buyer, and they know how to pivot. I think what's not valuable to me is people who only want to be in one specific space. Mm-hmm. I only want to be, in a beer and shot dive bar. I only want to be in mixology bars with my friends. I only want to be in, nightclubs. Like that creates limitations. And I see that person not having a lot of upward trajectory. So when I look at someone as a candidate, I want to see not just what this role is, what their next role will be, how they'll grow.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Never having been a bottle service waitress and not being great at asking the closing. What is the closing question, by the way?
It totally depends. Like, so can I can I let the rep know to put your order in?
Mm-hmm.
Shall we put that in? Can we put it on bill and hold?
Yeah. Yeah, gotten
And
bill and hold. That's swinging for the fences, right? That's saying like this is the maximum case break, and we're going to hold on to it before you drip it to you, right?
exactly. So, and I think there's a lot of fear around bill and hold, but like I can speak again only to our distributor in New York State. The pricing and like it usually does just make so much more sense. Like if you're saving $10 a bottle frontline and paying like 20 cents a case per month, like, it evens out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, working with them on smart buying and like smart buying strategy. But
All right.
yeah, I know. So the when people who coming from bottle service know how to ask for that sale. And I think fine dining might actually have that too with the upsell. So I think there is an element there. I've seen a lot of people come from that world and be very successful.
So getting the buyer to the point where you're ready to pitch a buying question. What would you like them to know before you even walk in the door? I know you could write a book about it, but it's like, what are some things?
You Yamasaki 55. I can't change the law for you. I'm not in control of supply chain.
Right.
I don't, I can't put a quote, I can't change. These are just, understand the limitations of what I can do and where these things come from. That's all. And I think, there's always like I'm happy to answer any questions, misconceptions. I usually start when I go in, I'm like, this is our portfolio. These are also priorities, but I start with what my priorities are, how I can best, partner with you. And if you're interested in a brand, that's not one of my priority brands. That's great. I can give you information on it, but there's not a lot of ways I can activate it. And, I don't want to hear about why I should be doing that and how I don't care.
Okay, so let's walk through this. Let's walk through the whole chain. So it's like you walk into an account, you develop a relationship. They decide what's best for their account. You help them decide, and then they make a decision. Then they place an order with you, or you instruct somebody else to place an order for them. That goes to the distributor, which is typically union shop, where they pick the cases, put it on the truck, and then it arrives there, and then they get a bill for it, right? How much of this stuff can you actually manipulate?
Very little.
Okay. All right. So I just wanted to drive
like from what manipulate like what they order.
No, I mean like how can you make changes and influence the system?
So I'm pretty good. I know how the allocation system works, so I can generally help them game the system in the best way possible. Timing, I can give them a buying schedule. I can let them know, okay, this is available. If you get this order in at 9 a.m., you will get the first come, first serve. It is better to buy this product in June because that's when it's on Price Pulse. It's going to take a price increase in July. Like, just sort of I think we're all exist in an information game. Mm-hmm. Like when I initially go into an account, I'm like, okay, I have a report that tells me they do a ton of American whiskey and a ton of gin, for example. And I'll go in, I'm like, okay, how are you using the gin? Is it martinis? Is it gin and tonics, etc.? American whiskey, is it rye? Is it bourbon? Are you interested in overproof? Do you like a wheated? And then I sort of figure that out based on their overall needs. And then I figure out what I have that can work best for them at what price point and figure out a buying schedule.
Great. That makes total sense. What would you have? What advice would you have for some buyers out there, that are trying to get the best deals, that are trying to get the best, that are trying to get the best.
Communicate. I have one nightclub buyer. This is a dirty trick, but I think it's genius. They have all of their reps on one email. They send their order out. That's their full order to every rep on that email. So if I'm like, okay, if I'm going for the house tequila at that account, I know exactly how many cases they're doing.
Whoa.
So, yeah,
that is nasty.
It's a level of transparency, and it kind of creates, it's a very, very, very high volume account.
Right.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, okay, I know what you're doing, so I know what the value is. And so their level of transparency is kind of nasty, but kind of brilliant.
I would say that's brilliant. That makes so much sense to me, because it's like because everybody can see like this is
everybody.
Yeah.
So I would say open communication with everybody who touches your account. You might want to only place orders with one of your 6,000 reps. And yes, I know it sucks to have 6,000 reps. But having open communication on supply chain with all of them, I think can really get you the best deals, the allocations, the opportunities, you know, and I'm not just saying from us, like from anybody across the board, always be in communication. Willingness to like, yes, I know there's a lot of different structural things, like knowing who does what. Like, okay, this person is my rep, my sales rep for these brands. This is my ambassador for just this brand. She will do education and events. She is tied to this market manager from this portfolio who will help me work out a structured deal. Like taking that little extra time and effort to know each person's function, I think will save you time and money in the long run as a buyer.
Yeah. And it seems like the value compounds when you do that, because you know, like the average time that people spend as either a rep or even as a buyer at a bar is like typically only a couple of years before things move around a little bit.
Yeah. And like, and you know, I would say, you know, roll with the punches, roll with the changes. Yes, they're annoying, but change is inevitable. If you are dealing with someone, think of anyone you work with the way. Don't treat people the way a bad customer treats a server. Anyone, like you're always in a business environment. You're always professional. Don't curse at your distributor rep.
That shook me a little bit when you said that talking to your distributor rep is like talking to your server. And it's like if any one of us who is in the industry in any capacity was caught berating a server that was serving us
the way,
a meal,
it's really, and I get it. You know, I've seen people in front of house just get abuse all day, every day, and keep a smile on their face. And I know it's a kind of like trickle down effect, but like try to be, you know, cognizant and kind. These people are doing their jobs too. They might, you know, and they have they did very different lives than you. I'm sure different politically, but they're out here trying to support their families in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody makes mistakes.
So what are some characteristics that you've seen of a really disorganized buyer that you know is not going to be a fun relationship?
They can't remember who I work for. Like they're calling me, they're like, oh, blah, blah, like, you know, can you talk to me about like said competitor brand? I'm like, literally direct competitor, bro. Like, you know, if they call me last minute to come in and support them in a way that is a little egregious, I don't want to speak too much in detail. If I'm chasing them, like if I made a commitment to them and I'm trying to set a date to execute an event or something that I've committed to, and I'm chasing them down for it, like, I'm like, come on, this is something I'm doing for you. Why do I have to keep asking you? Tell me a Wednesday.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So yeah.
All right.
They immediately, like a lot of people have said, they immediately come with their hand out, or just know where they are in the scale of things. Like, you know, like expecting neighborhood people, cocktail bars, expecting the same level of partnership as a stadium is not going to happen. Like,
tactically speaking, have you seen things that are make yours and their lives easier, like keeping office hours, like having an appointment link or anything like that?
I think it's great when it's like, I am here, I meet with reps Tuesdays 2 to 6. Great, perfect. Having a really structured way, like in which those things happen. Having a really structured way, and like I love. There was an account we work with that's a nightclub account that like does an event series, and one of the ways they work with their portfolio partners is they have like blank portfolio presents this event series for this month, and so it's like, you know, I love a plug and play moment. Like, I'm like, okay, great. I really like when it can be when they're open to working with the marketing programming we're coming in with. when I'm coming, I'm like, hey, do you do Dia de los Muertos? Do you do Derby? Like, can I, work with you here? Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they're open, when they have, but also when they bring their own ideas to the table. They're like, okay, cool. I had an account recently open that wanted, decided to, actually, that's not appropriate for this phone call. It's a very aggressive queer bar. I'm not going into that one. Where they come with their own creative programming and figure out how to best brand amplify together.
Right. That makes total sense, and it's all in the frame of partnership, which is being parts of, like, equal parts of a symbiotic relationship, and making sure that everybody gets what they want.
Yeah, I love this account I have in Bed-Stuy. They're really Gen Z, funny, and they just keep coming up with different wacky ideas. And they're like, "Do you want to get in on this?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great. You hired a Joan Rivers impersonator? I'm there."
Nice. That's awesome. All right. Well, cool. Well, Sarah, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know how difficult your job is, and I appreciate you carving out half an hour of it for us. And thank you very much for that.
No worries. Just don't curse at your distributor rep.